Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. Remember the date and remember this because we might just be about to get it with Declan Rice and a 100 million plus 5 offer from Arsenal, which is fully expected to get accepted. What does that leave for Man City? We'll talk about Declan Rice, but it's also another North London club that's got a deal done. Spurs acquiring James Maddison for £40 million. What an interesting deal that is. Let's fly straight into it. Now, look, I've always said this. I've been saying this for weeks now, that Declan Rice will choose Arsenal. And I understand that Arsenal fans don't want to acknowledge it until he's holding up the shirt. And you're quite right to do that. And I don't think Man City fans want to acknowledge it because they're Man City and they should be able to get who they want. But the bottom line is, as I've been saying, and as a couple of other people have been saying, major confidence that Declan Rice will sign for Arsenal for a long time now. Logically, a lot of people have been pushing him in the other direction. Ex-players, why is he not going to Man City, this, that and the other? Because, in fairness, and things could change drastically in the last minute, we can always say that, but the constant from Arsenal for many months has been that they want Declan Rice and they've put a lot of work in, going back to as far as January. And the constant from Declan Rice is that he's very impressed with what Arsenal are offering him. As a footballer and as a person, he does have that grounded, I want to go and achieve things for the team I play for, like he has at West Ham, but also for me, so that my career feels like I'm having an impact on it. Going up north to Manchester City, to a team that's just won the treble and can replace players like they replace worn shoes, is not really appealing to Declan Rice as appealing as Arsenal is, where, look, they're the underdog, but they did come second, and they're trying again next season and the season after to become a team that can win a major thing like a Premier League or a Champions League. And they've put the money on the table, and they've convinced him, and it's in London, and that's what Declan Rice wants to do. So people can twist and turn and say he should go to Man City all they like, but the common knowledge close to this deal has always been that Declan Rice 100% prefers Arsenal. And what Arsenal had to do was get the offer on the table. They've put £100 million on the table, plus 5. That should be deal done for Declan Rice. And if they accept an offer from Arsenal, Man City can come in with a better offer. Of course they can. But ultimately, how long do you keep going with this? I mean, West Ham could just keep playing one across the other. But ultimately, they're getting a fantastic deal. Declan Rice is not worth £100 million. He's just not. But Jack Grealish wasn't. And any player is worth what another club is willing to pay for them. My club, Manchester United, paid £80 million for Harry Maguire. One of the most stupidest transfers you'll ever witness. So, look, people pay what they're willing to pay. And fair play to West Ham for getting it. And, I do think Declan Rice will end up being a very good player for Arsenal. And in a few years' time, £100 million will still be it's always going to be a massive transfer fee. But it's English tax. I mean, look at what's happened with Kovacic to Man City, 30 million. Mason Mount, they want 65. I mean, is Mason Mount a better player than Kovacic? All right, he's a bit younger, but you pay an English tax. Look at what Spurs are trying to do with Harry Kane. So, look, I think at the end of the day, also, you're in a competition with Manchester City. You know, you're not going to get a bargain when the top two teams in England are fighting it out for a player of the quality of Declan Rice. The price will inflate. So I think this deal gets done. How quickly it gets done is what Arsenal fans will want to know. Well, look, Manchester City will surely come back in with another bid. West Ham haven't rejected the Arsenal bid out of hand. They've rejected parts of it. Understandably, this is to do with add-ons. We don't suspect some of the add-ons are things like Declan will give you another 20 million if Declan Rice is Golden Boot winner next season wearing Timberlands. But look, there's a little bit there. I heard a rumour that it might be about the instalments and how quickly they get paid. I think West Ham want them a year quicker. Man City could come in with a better structure of a deal, but at some point West Ham have got to respect Declan Rice, and I think they do. And I think what they'll have said to Declan is, look, if this price gets hit, we'll take it. So I wouldn't be scared if I was Arsenal that Man City come in with 110. I think what will happen in this deal, and we see it happen quite a lot, is that there's a good relationship between Declan Rice and West Ham. Declan Rice will have said to West Ham, I want to go. West Ham will say, look, as long as somebody pays this figure, we'll throw it over to you. So even if Man City go in with a bigger offer, I think that I'd be surprised if West Ham say to Arsenal, look, we're not going to answer your offer until we've heard what Man City have got to say. He should end up being an Arsenal player. I've felt that for weeks. I've heard that for weeks, and I think that will happen. So, look, but I understand Arsenal fans, you've got to be a little bit worried, a little bit concerned. Do I think it'll happen in the next 2 days? I think it can happen very, very quickly. It just depends on how people deal with the Man City bid. Man City could walk, but could be another week, could go into July. There could be a few more days of this, but again, it's still very much Arsenal's deal to do. When the player wants to come to you, you've just got to deliver the financials to West Ham, and it looks like they're pretty close to do that. Swapping across to North London, this deal's interesting with James Maddison. I'm not too sure, I haven't done my homework here, on what the contract situation is with James Maddison, but personal terms done. He's doing his medical today. This is all coming in from, I think, Fabrizio Romano. £40 million deal. Obviously got relegated with Leicester. I think that James Maddison to Spurs is absolutely perfect as a deal. I think that's his level. I know he was linked to Newcastle. Newcastle have obviously backed out because I think they had a chance, and I think they've got to have a bigger chance than Spurs because Newcastle are going to be playing European football a lot more than Spurs are over the next few years. But for James Maddison, Spurs is a big club. It's a big stadium. It's a big fan base. And they don't have a attacking midfielder, really. They don't. They haven't really had one since Eriksen. I know Lo Celso was used, but it's not really the way that Conte played. So this is a different team, obviously with a different manager. And if I was Spurs, I'd be quite encouraged by this because James Maddison, whatever you think about him, and I don't think he belongs anywhere near the conversations of people like Bruno Fernandes or Kevin De Bruyne or the top attacking midfielders in the league, but he's certainly in the next level down. And this is the sort of move that there'll be a lot of eyes on Maddison now. This is the perfect place for him. He doesn't have the expectations of an Arsenal or a Manchester United, but he has the superiority of a Leicester, a Southampton, and he's going to be in that area now next season where it's probably Spurs, Brighton, maybe Aston Villa in that group of teams behind the six that will probably go for the top six. So, and going into a team that's not had an attacking midfielder, I think that goes into his credit as well. £40 million for Spurs, I think that's a good deal for James Maddison. I think if Leicester were the team they should have been and they'd finished mid-table, then I think Leicester would be asking for 60, 70 as well. So it's a good deal for Spurs, that. It's interesting that none of the top six went for him in the end, but ultimately I think that comes down to a bit of a question about character, and he had a bit of an up and down season last year, and obviously a few sort of public outbursts that sort of bit him on the backside about that's not the real Leicester and we're not going to go down, stuff to that effect, I think it was. But it's a good move for him, and I tell you what, if he does do really well at Spurs, then you sort of fall into that Harry Kane world, don't you, where you're at Spurs and you're doing really, really well, and then maybe one of the big clubs are looking at you. So I think it's a good deal all round. He clearly needed to get out of Leicester, and there's value for money there for Spurs. I don't know how much more money Spurs have got to spend. That new manager's going to need to spend a lot. They'll certainly be looking at Arsenal and going, we've been at least level with Arsenal, maybe even better at times over the last few years. And suddenly there's a massive disparity. It's a big rivalry, and Spurs have got to try and close that gap. So they'll have to be very active in the transfer window. Certainly their manager plays a different style football to what Mourinho and Conte has. So big changes there. And I suppose the question is, will they cash in on Kane to allow the new manager to start making those changes? Because for me, if you bring in Maddison in and you've got Richarlison, surely Harry Kane going is not a bad idea, because Maddison is a creative number 10 and Richarlison can play up front. And as we know with Harry Kane, Spurs never needed a 10 because Harry Kane dropped so deep. Is this a bit of a hint that they might move Kane on and start trying the rebuild that they've got to do? Anyway, get your comments in below. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. What are your thoughts on these two big deals? Are we about to see Declan Rice finally move to Arsenal?